طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. آه، طيب يعني I take a different angle talking about sustainable development for post-war Sudan. And I argue the fact that if you really need sustainable development in post-war Sudan, then you really need to tackle poverty eradication completely, and for the following reasons. One of the good things about uh, being lost is the fact that I have seen other people's presentations, and it's interesting to see that many, for example, of the concepts that Dr. Nader recommended as a means of what needs to be done are more or less answered in my chapter from the point of view of how to do it. So what you will go through with me here is you will find a bold, technically grounded and socially inclusive roadmap for poverty eradication. But the important piece is that it has an integrated approach of combining social services and economic opportunities. طبعا these are some of the words that Dr. Nader and maybe Ustaza Sarah Hussein mentioned. If you don't have social services, you cannot have sustainable development, only doing economic opportunities. The paper also looked into the interlinked challenges of governance, rural development, youth empowerment, and capacity building as essential focal points for sustainable progress. And it's not a secret that it has to underscore the importance of reviving the social harmony of the Sudanese society by decentralization of power and resources, and of course with timely innovations. And the stress here is on the word timely. Some of the main actions that we are recommending here are very smart social protection systems, equitable resource distribution, and infrastructure modernization. Nobody is absent from what really were the core problems in Sudan. We had a very fragile state. All the institutions were fragile, full of corruption to the ceiling. Public services were to the weakest or non-existent. Of course, the government in general was able to centralize the resources for urban areas, and big cities ended up with a big part of slums being built around it. We have noticed that poverty levels have increased in the last 40 years, and the middle class has completely disappeared. And of course, rural and peripheral regions, their marginalization increased the issues and the problems. So what we have actually is presenting a framework for action that is actually consisting of 4 pillars. The first pillar looks at structural policies for equitable growth. And here we have to mention the fact that because of the economic situation in Sudan, you have to prioritize no cost and low cost solutions first. You cannot just, as يمكن Mr. Hussein said, just do what you want. يعني that tower that stood in El Mogran for 92 million, and it wasn't really fulfilling any of the required requirements of such a building. We also need to look at realistic scope and budget based on national and local resources and capacities. This is very important. because, and this is also something that maybe Dr. Nader said, that you need really to hold your horses when you talk about international assistance. Okay, one of the main structural policies that we're looking at is what we call the Aristotle's framework of action. And this framework of action actually is keen to rebuild the middle class. Aristotle says that if you want to have a sustainable and a stable society, you need to make sure that you have a good middle class in there. And how are we going to do that? By actually supporting the most marginalized 15 to 20% of our population and through social justice. And this is not new. Brazil, during the time 2003 to 2011, they actually, what they did is they took the worst, poorest 10 to 15%, they educated them and they gave them good paying jobs, and voila, Brazil completely, the economy shifted into a completely different class. We also want, as a structural policy, to look at how to govern the resources that we have. We said that it has to be state controlled. It's not federal anymore. We have to ensure that raw materials that are processed within the state for value addition, nothing like raw material just moving across state borders, or otherwise you tax it. One of the major issues is smuggling of resources from the country, and we also are looking at putting a new force with drone surveillance to actually be able to stop that. Now, one of the innovative ideas, I'm talking state level here. You have 18 states, they all have to have the same model. So we call it Wazir State. This is basically a state fund that would collect the zakah, the waqf return, the retirement fund for that particular state, and use it for state investment. And we will show you how investment equity is important, and that is based on two tracks. First of all, we're going to use state cooperatives financial models, where literally all the population of a state become actually owners of those cooperatives, and that can easily lead us to the model of cooperative private partnership model. Instead of public private partnership, we go cooperative private partnership. The second track is actually looking at adopting an act which is for circular economy investment. This act says that any investor comes to your state, you actually give them the opportunity to invest with zero taxes, free land, free basic services of electricity and industrial water. And in return, the state gets 50% of the profit, 20 goes to federal, and the investor gets a whopping 15%, no problem. Wazir State Fund gets 10%, and 5% goes to the employees of that institution. The second pillar is actually adopting a social inclusion act, and that is literally a national welfare system. By the way, countries like France and Finland, they actually spend about 30% of their GDP on welfare systems. So we need to have that a national welfare system, and this is literally integrating those earlier structural policies that we have to make available locally driven financial empowerment. Okay, we are going to move away from relying on international aid. And by doing that, you're moving towards empowerment-based development. Of course, the welfare system has to look at the basic human right for access to services, and that's for everybody within the 18 states, including education, healthcare, nutrition, food supply, and behold, furnished social housing as well, and then water and sanitation. And we're going to look into those social housing. Of course, your focus has to be on women, youth, and the rural pool. We're talking about the vulnerable 10 to 15%. And of course, you promote social justice by advocating the integration approach again of social services with economic opportunities. And by doing that, you actually end exclusion. Okay, the second piece is looking at the macroeconomic implementation measures. Those are measures that you need to put in place to actually have a change. We're going to look at energy reforms, infrastructure reform, transportation, and of course, that has to go with education and civil service reform. I heard Dr. Nadir responding about the GERD, or the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and away from politics, and if it becomes a reality, and if we are focusing on no-cost solutions, the best thing that Sudan can do if GERD becomes a reality is to actually request from Ethiopia to have as much as you can from that the power that's generated by that dam. And by doing that, you actually replace all your fossil fuel power generation. That is totally environmental, and that is also a lot of economic return. And all Sudan would need to do then is to reinforce their transmission line and extend it into Darfur, because that is an important issue. Now, the three coming actually solutions are patents that I own myself. One of them is small hydropower patent design, where you can actually produce power within the irrigation canals of the agricultural schemes. And by doing that, you're actually reducing the losses in the long transmission lines that are passing by. Electric engineers know that injecting power into the long transmission lines would actually reduce the losses that can go up to 15 or 20% of the passing power. Now, we talked about wind power, and people were asking about wind power. Wind power has got a problem that it has to be geographical location is specific. That is a place where you actually have a good wind regimes with high velocities or speeds. Now, this patent talks about high altitude wind power, above 150 meters high above the ground level. The wind regimes are fantastic, and if you put a wind uh, uh, a wind turbine up there, you actually get power 24/7. Of course, you're not going to put the horizontal one, it's vertical. You're going to see it in a bit. Also, what we call Alcar Dam for irrigation and power. This is also a patent design. It was part of my PhD, one of the outcomes. And maybe I should actually start showing. This is where Al Dam is located. It's in the middle of Wadi Mugaddam, and water is actually transferred to that location by two water transfer tunnels. I know a lot of people talked about that issue, but I actually had the patent since early 2003. This location actually can give you about 400 megawatts of electricity. That is in addition of thousands, hundreds of thousands of acres in cultivation by gravity, all the way to Ambikol and Dabba in the north. It's honestly, in terms of sustainable development index, it has a very high index. Now, these are the vertical wind turbine axes. This is an international patent, and it's very simple. It's either you have a high rise that is over 100 to 150 meters, where you can actually put our wind turbine, or you can actually use a helium carrier to actually put the turbine up there, and then there is a climate station that actually controls the going up and down of the system. Now, this is another patent where we actually designed a small hydropower generation from within the irrigation canals of the agriculture schemes that we have in Gadarif and Jazeera. Now, here is another story. I was listening to that gentleman who said that he was from the Sudanese consulate in Japan. And behold, yes, Japanese have huge and excellent urban development ideas. One of them is this compact cities for senior citizens, where they can actually have in one location all their shops, schools, health services, recreation, sports, and so forth. And if you put it in a positive energy high rise like the one that is seen, you get power and water desalination from solar and wind, and of course your sanitation and water treatment can be very compact. One of those towers can easily have 400 units, and imagine that in return you have to build a small town with 400 houses. How much sanitation networks, how much water, and so forth. So what we are actually saying is that you can actually have those, and we will see in a minute, out of 18 states that we have about 126 localities or municipalities, اللي هي محليات. And we are thinking, okay, how about if you actually build 126 of those towers actually statewide and accommodate have housing for government civil servants, and at the same time some of your 10% or 15% impoverished people, welfare families, you can actually put them in there. Now, one of the things that we have looked at is actually designing those units with furniture that does not use any. It uses green and environmental material. Okay, here is another story. I realized that we have an excellent transportation reform candidate. It's called the Aerotrain system. This was actually done in France between 1965 and 1977. Very high speed. The record speed for this train was over 400 kilometers per hour. And because it doesn't have any steel rail or steel structure underneath. It flies on on an air cushion. It actually can cost less than 60% of the classical railway. And with those kind of high speeds, I'm only calculating it at 250 kilometer per hour. For example, look at the distance between, for example, Al Jinena and Al Fashir. Currently, you take 6 hours 50 minutes to travel between Al Fashir and Al Jinena. With this Aerotrain, it takes you an hour 15 minutes. If you want to go from Janena to Danang, for example, that is 17 hours and a half. You can do that in 3 hours. So if you can think of a network for an Aerotrain system with 126 planned stations, these are the 126 municipalities where we are actually also putting that building. Now, the last pillar, and I'm getting closer, Dr. Allam, so don't worry. We are looking at an 8 ministries only model, because what we really should do is reduce government spending to the bare minimum. A completely new civil service has to be designed. All those experts, and we're actually gonna heavily think about diaspora for their hiring. You pay them even salaries at the UN level, and if they're hired from an updated national numbers database, بتاع الرقم القومي, this system can be updated with zero tolerance for any data modification once verified, and then each state would know its qualified experts to be hired, and they have to lead the different directorates. So what you're doing here is actually avoiding that أخوي وأخوك وعين لي ود أختي ود خالتي, if we go in that direction. Now, last but not least, for the public sector reform, you need e-government, fully digital, corruption-free governance. You are not using cash, handling anymore between the customers and your civil servant. Last but not the least, of course, you have to have capacity and innovation. What we're thinking about is all the selected technologies that we talked about can become the source of your green procurement system. And for that, you need to capacitate people. And we are suggesting that we actually build a sustainable development goals, technology, education, and utilization hub. For example, some of the courses that we thought of is, for example, the prefabricated, pre-finished volumetric construction, and, for example, the modern techniques in tower construction, utilizing the concept of design for manufacturing and assembly. We would like to upgrade our engineers level to actually be able to tackle those technologies. Now, we are also calling for an advanced research, development, and demonstration unit. We can attach that, for example, to the National Research Center, and where you can have huge technical workshop capabilities. I'm talking here about technical education, and you can actually demonstrate all for example, like the Aerotrain and its new track. You can actually build one and actually look into it. Okay, this is my last slide. Now, key innovations other than those that we talked about, patented technologies. First of all, we are proposing a targeted and participatory welfare system designed to support vulnerable population in a way that empowers rather than creates dependency. This is very important. You're not just giving them cash, you're actually giving them shelter, you're giving them food, you're giving them health, and best of all, you're giving them education and employment security. Now, the welfare system is transitional and targeted and empowerment oriented, which means that the welfare system is actually anticipated that the money that is coming through the state fund that we mentioned is going to increase, and actually it will design to stabilize those vulnerable populations while building pathways towards self-reliance of the state, okay, and of course of Sudan. Now, we conclude that poverty in Sudan is not simply economic, but fundamentally political, and that without radical reform in public governance, and that's why I had to look at a new government structure, any poverty eradication effort would fail. Okay, the schemes on governance are therefore central to the proposal and form the backbone of the strategy, calling for government reform through reduced expenditure, especially by curbing administrative inefficiencies, duplications, and lavish government spending. Last but not least, a visionary integration of the compact urban development that we talked about, the public sector housing, and transit-oriented development. That is one of the visionaries of the strategy, and by that we mean that you locate the government officials within their service areas. يعني الجفرمنت official احنا هنديه سكن، okay, and السكن بتاعه بيكون next to his office. He does not even need a car to drive. يعني even يعني all, for example, one ministry can be in one of those high rise, and by actually doing that, you're increasing their visibility, availability, responsiveness to citizens. It would also serve as a symbolic and practical decentralization move, brings the government physically and operationally closer to the people it serves. يعني أنا قاعد بتكلم وقاعد أحلم. This is the motto of the chapter. You empower people by letting them govern development, not by just giving them development. يعني أنت زي ما المثل بيقول don't feed me fish but teach me how to fish. I think with this, of course, I have to mention that the opinion of this paper does not necessarily represent the opinion of UNESCO. I thank you very much, and I open things for